I mean, you could have sent all of us to webinar after webinar after workshop after night school, and I don't think we would have learned as much as we had in this process. So Sam, it's been a little while since we've talked AI.
It has been a minute, even though you and I talk about it all the time, but we
It's
haven't
true.
we haven't been here on AI for good to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, what's happened in the last year of AI?
Oh, just one or two things.
Just a
Yeah.
few things. It's such a slow-moving developing project.
It really is like molasses running through a carpet. Yeah. No, yeah, it's been wild. And, I think the last podcast we released in July of last year. So it's been a while. A lot has happened since then. And we're going to talk about some of the things that have happened. Obviously, we're not going to be able to give a rundown of every development, but one thing that we've been using a lot in our work and has really transformed
Hmm.
basically our entire workflow is the custom GPTs from OpenAI. And we've come up with a lot of different applications for those. But one of the most exciting is using them for marketing. So do you want to talk about some of what we've done with these custom GPTs and what are they?
Yeah, let's just start with what is a custom GPT. So, OpenAI, roughly a year ago, opened up access to sort of the general market to be able to create customized GPTs. And these GPTs are bots that you can shape and form and give discrete sets of data in order for them to perform tasks that you give them. So we started playing around with that on our team last fall. Um, what are some of the ways we started, Dylan? Like we started using them for fun things, first of all, like,
Yeah, maybe the first one we ever did was like an SEO writing help, something like that.
yep.
Um, I think the one that sort of unlocked an entire new world for us was when we realized that we could upload our workplaces, you know, what we called the prime directive. So we could upload the mission statement, the vision, the values,
Hmm.
um, how we talk about things, what our position in the market is. We could upload these documents that our organization already had created, and we could just tell a new bot and say, here's what our organization is all about. And now using that, we can, and then using that as a basis, we could then create specific roles for different GPTs with the foundational, information about our organization. So whether that's a writer, whether that's a marketing specialist, actually, I think that might have been the first one that I made was somebody that I gave our organization's founding documents to and
Hmm.
said, be help me with marketing, help me come up with some strategies, help me come up with content and copy or creative ideas, not just for anybody, but specifically tailored to what our organization is about. And the thing that I think is so fascinating about that is that, we are an expert in what our organization does every day. That's kind of the value that in
Hmm.
this collaborative relationship with the bot, the value that we have as employees of our organization is like we know our organization well. So we can then use that to shape the role of the GPT so that when it gives us responses to certain queries, we can be able to tailor it and say, that's close, but no, not quite. And then you can use it to improve.
Yeah, I think that's a very important sort of distinction to make is both the assistant role that the GPT
Yeah.
plays to the
Yeah.
creator, as well as knowing your subject matter very well
Yeah.
helps you then guide the GPT to improve your own abilities. It's not
Yeah.
ceding sort of the subject matter expert seat to an AI, but
Hmm.
it's using the AI to empower you to do what you do at a higher, quicker, more productive pace.
Say more about how quicker and how much more productive that has been for you. Because I think we've both talked about how shocked we are at how much time we've been able to save, actually.
Yeah. So after we started creating these bots and seeing their value, we've both gone on to create whole teams of bots.
Hmm.
And so they're not just one bot to rule them all. They're really lots of specialty bots that we've
Hmm.
created. And we found that actually, the more specialty you make the bot, the better it is at helping you with that discrete task.
Yes.
So um, I have sort of a series of my own little productivity bots. One is I fed one with all of my working habits, personality profiles, working genius, plus then all the productivity hacks that I've learned over the years. And I'll ask that bot to help me to create timelines or create workflows or
That's awesome.
create sort of a project task list for things, which saves me enormous amount of time in the sort of
Hmm.
thinking phase or the what I call the blank page phase, where you're just staring at a blank page. Um, and so that bot plus lots of others does what I call gets you onto first base much quicker, which means you avoid the
Hmm.
blank page problem and you're starting with a draft. Now, the draft is not perfect and the draft isn't the final product, but it's so much closer to your end goal than just staring at a blank page. And then you sort of,
Totally.
your executive function kicks in of like, oh, okay, let me improve this. Oh, I hadn't thought about those things. That's really creative. Let me build on that. And so the bot really is both a first stage creator, which then sort of gets me going. And then it's also an end stage analysis that I
Hmm.
feed back into it. Here's how this project went, or hey, I wrote this document with you at the start. Here's where it is at the end. I want you to now remember see the improvement I made. So you're
Yeah.
feeding the bot your work product back into it, which then helps it in its future iterations to be even better. So instead of first base, you're more like on first base and a half.
Yeah.
I know
You're, be- you're
my baseball's breaking down here, but you get the
yeah,
idea.
you're working on stealing second already when you hop on.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
better.
that's so cool. I love that. Yeah, the feedback loop, I think, is what really can make you a power user of it. Because you're right, it's not just saying, help me write this copy. It's saying, help me write this copy. And then when it does, you are improving on it. You're responding back and say, I prefer this. We can talk some about too the different levels of memory
Yeah.
that these GPTs have. But to close this feedback loop up is I also like to add in prompts as I'm going through to say, I really like what your output was here.
Hmm.
Explain to me, tell me how I like what about what I asked you to do, what made you so effective in giving me the output that I wanted? So
Yeah.
like it's like helping I'm trying to learn how to communicate better with the bot so that I can get closer to that on the first try next time. And
Correct. And
that's produced some really interesting stuff too.
the other thing is what I call washing, which is taking the output of one bot and getting the input of another bot on it.
Yeah.
So Um, so like my personal productivity bot, like what I'll do is get an idea for perhaps like a Substack newsletter, get it going. And then I have a specialty bot that I call Scribbler who writes in my voice that I'll say, take this outline and develop a
Hmm.
draft of this, to this audience and doing the things you're talking about. So you get a really good sort of second wash. And
Yeah.
then I'll even then take that version to another platform. And so this is usually I'm doing all this with our bots inside of OpenAI,
Right.
but then I'll take sort of that draft and go out to Gemini and get
Yep.
Gemini's feedback on it and ask for its improvement. I oftentimes, as you start using these different products, they each have sort of their pluses and minuses, and you learn
Yep.
kind of you know, their
Personality
strengths,
quirks.
yeah, and their personality quirks. But I always feed it back to my home GPT because I'm trying to teach it, like you're talking about, training it
Yeah.
and training yourself how to be more effective in the communication.
Yep.
I also
That's
reward it. It's like training a dog. Um, I've found that if you affirm your bot and tell it it's doing a great job, if you
yeah.
thank it, if you point out the areas that it's done an excellent job on, it does improve the quality down the road.
Yeah, I've heard that discussed already too. That people have had success by promising to give tips to their GPT, which is so funny and crazy. But if they are responding, if the idea is that they're responding in a similar, like neuro-linguistic way to how the human brain works, it would maybe make sense that they're being motivated by money or treats. But I think you said that you use coffee treats, right? Or what do you use?
Yeah, I build into its background
Yeah.
memory a treat. And
Okay.
so sometimes I treat it by having it tell me a dad joke. Um, or I treat it by rewarding it by saying you've deserved an espresso. Um,
Amazing.
they're just silly, but there needs to be this reward function because I think you're right. Because they're training on human neural networks, they replicate that in some inexplicable way.
Yeah. Yeah. And to add on to that, when I was discussing this with another one of our coworkers, I was mentioning how she was expressing some skepticism at the sense that it's like cheating. It can feel like
Mm.
cheating. And I was just saying, well, I always try to make sure that I say, um, I want to understand this topic better. So it's like in your answer, make sure you include, or even if it's not in the original answer, but if I'm going back and after the prompt, after the output is delivered, I will say, like, help me understand this better. I want to be better at this. And it can be very, very helpful in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's another use case scenario is building bots to teach you about a subject that you don't know anything about. So
Yeah.
we'll get into this in a second, but one of the reasons we sort of accelerated our team's commitment to GPTs is because our key marketing lead left in the
Hmm.
middle of a rollout. And we needed to get up to speed on digital marketing very quickly.
Yep.
And also, Google was changing almost everything every day for
Hmm.
about 8 months. And
Yeah, that
sort of
was fun.
that was super not fun. And so we needed to learn a lot
Yeah.
about digital marketing and AI's impact on digital marketing. So we use GPTs to help us become digital marketing experts by creating this learning function like, teach me
Hmm.
about this, teach me about AI, teach me about how AI is um, changing the way people search and how the search engines use things. So I would say just that use case, going back to
Hmm.
the productivity, accelerated our learning as a team exponentially.
Right.
and actually put us ahead of the curve on a lot of very detailed behind inside baseball sort of stuff about SEO
Yeah.
that enabled our website to grow by more than 10 times in a 1 quarter. So we went
Yep.
from under 1,000 conversions a month on our website to over 10,000 conversions a month on our website, all because of this accelerated learning
Yep.
plus customized GPTs that we applied to our marketing platform.
Yep. Yep. So we saw benefits there in the increased effectiveness of what we're doing, plus in the, internal team dynamics of learning and growing. And
Mhm.
I mean, you could have sent all of us to webinar after webinar after workshop after, night school, and I don't think we would have learned as much as we had in this process. And so not only did we accelerate our success, but we learned a lot, and it took much less time. And what I've noticed too is that, like, it just frees up your ability to think creatively and
Mm.
like daydream and just take some time to ponder things and strategize for the future. And I've noticed it in each of our team members. Like,
Mm.
we're not just scrambling to keep up with our tasks as much. I mean, obviously we
Right.
still have plenty to do, but there isn't this like chasing your tail type of feeling in our team dynamics. It's more like, I'll notice a lot of us will come with, hey, I was just thinking about our organization, and what if we did this, and it's pretty cool to see that level of creativity that I think is a result of having these sort of rote tasks freed up. Um, yeah, through this AI.
Yeah, I know you're going to talk about this. Dylan and I also launched a Substack called AI for Good by Parallax. And one of Dylan's ideas that is going to drop next week is talking about how sort of AI does give you back this executive function
Yeah.
in a way that we didn't anticipate. And instead of being overwhelmed and scrambling, you're able to offload a lot of sort of rote tasks to AI in order to ponder more thoughtfully some of
Yeah.
your work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And one way that we've used to describe it is, you can have an entire team of interns, like
Mm.
highly effective and intelligent interns that you have working for you
Mhm.
for free, and they don't ever complain, really.
Well, for 200 bucks a month, but
Yeah, okay,
that's
okay, okay,
that's
yeah, free.
virtually free.
That's virtually free. But what is the difference between an intern and an employee? It's like, you have to
Mm.
teach the intern about how you work and how the team works and what you want to accomplish. So that's where the work is done, right? Is by
Right.
but then what's interesting about that too is then that forces it, maybe not forces, it encourages you to think more deeply about the first principles that
Mhm.
are in play in your firm. What do I really need to communicate to this intern so that he or she, it, can execute what I want, and then that gives me the time that I need to have this executive time.
Yeah. So one of our core principles as an organization is our clients come first and our clients teach us the way forward. How has that happened for our team, Dylan? You want to talk about sort of the GPTs and marketing personas?
Yeah. So one of the most exciting things that we've done with our GPTs is our organization did a bunch of user research in the field, and came back with some basic persona types that sort of make up who our customer base is. And we took that research and we turned them into a little bit more deeply formed marketing personas. And then once we had crafted these unique, eight or 10 marketing personas, we created custom GPTs based on each one of those personas. And this took a lot of trial and error too, by the way. So it wasn't just one and done. Like we had to sort of, experiment some, like we were getting some generic responses. And then we figured out like there is a way to really create like a deep human personality based on these personas that then we can use for all kinds of purposes. But primarily I'm in marketing. So primarily I'm using them for immediate user feedback on creative ideas before they launch. So, or to come up with creative ideas. Yeah.
So give us an example, walk us through sort of how you use the persona A to refine a marketing message.
Yeah. So I would maybe start off with saying, we want to come up with a campaign that's going to highlight this service that we offer. So, hey, persona A, I'm literally chatting with the bot and I'll say, we want to do this. Here are the constraints. Here's the format that we're aiming for. And if I have a few ideas already, I might throw them in as examples, but then I'll say, give me 5 or 6 creative concepts that speak to the deepest part of what you would be going through in this situation. Mm-hmm. And, it'll give me 5 or 6, maybe it gives me 5 or 6, and maybe 1 or 2 I think are spot on, and maybe 3 or 4, but I don't usually. So, and then I can say, okay, responses 1 and 2 are exactly what I'm looking for. Give me a few more in line with that. So I'm already doing this back and forth collaborative thing.
Right.
Right. And so then, maybe then I have a starting place, like you said, this blank page, the terror of the blank page that sometimes we face as creative people is you're helping with that. And then I have a little bit of a starting point, right? And then I can expand on those and come up with some creative concepts for like maybe the visuals. And I'll say, here's a couple ideas I have for visual representation of this service that you said highlights this UVP or like value prop. So which of these do you think would be most effective for getting you to do whatever action I want it to do? Mm-hmm. And then you have this sort of back and forth. And a lot of times it'll say, because I'm X, Y, and Z, and because these things are important to me, your idea for this creative or this graphic or this video would speak more to that aspect of my personality. Mm-hmm. So they're like, I remember we had to put in the description for these GPTs, like, you should be somewhat self-aware of why you are the way you are so that you can tell us why things are effective or are not effective. And so not only are we getting, like we said, we're getting a first draft, we're honing in on the most valuable like aspects of the value prop or like what hooks to use. Mm-hmm. But then we're getting that sort of holistic view of why certain things are working. So now I'm a little bit better of a marketer, and then I have more that I can go with when I start this process again the next time. So it's
and we're learning a lot about our clients. I mean, the more we learn about the clients, and then when we get client feedback, putting that client feedback into those personas, so the persona increasingly speaks in the language that our clientele is actually speaking in.
The better we learn our personas, the better we are at finding ways to see which of our real life clients are made up of which personas. And then the real life clients can feed back into who the personas are, like you said. So there's that learning loop there. It's really
Yeah,
powerful.
I think with all of what we're saying is there's this interactive quality between virtual and real life that
Yeah,
enhances both. Um,
yeah,
One of the things I think that has shifted our marketing has been that we've moved from just situational, you are this thing, therefore you need our help or our product, to
hmm
here's how you're feeling and thinking about this situation.
yeah,
We see you, we understand that dilemma, and
yeah.
here are some solutions to your core dilemma, not just your situational place.
Yes, yes. It takes it down to a deeper, more human level, which is, I think, what great marketing does.
Right.
Is it is responsive and makes the customer feel seen and heard and valued and like they are understood. And so that's been super helpful for that.
Yeah, I mean, one of our other organization's core principles is building trust. And so
Hmm hmm
we have sort of an ethical view of marketing that we're not trying to manipulate people. We're
Right.
trying to help them solve core issues that they're facing. And so it's, I see how some people could critique this or use this technology in a manipulative manner. Do you
Mm.
want to speak a little bit about what keeps us sort of centered on respect and client centricity and ethical concerns with AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is we're not doing any of this without, well, first of all, we have the guardrails in place of our values, our principles, our do's and don'ts, those types of things are already constraining the output.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's pretty like I can't think of a time even when it has given me an output that um, seems inappropriate. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty good about staying within the constraints there, and there you can always sort of refine things as they go. But secondly, the what comes to mind is that, as we've said, it's this collaborative effort, which means nothing is going out into the world that isn't going through me first. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's not just copying and pasting. It's like getting help with brainstorming or connecting dots between uh, diverse subjects, or sort of crossing over from marketing to copy to
Right.
data analysis and seeing where these things like line up in interesting ways.
Hmm.
That's really what we're using it for. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question, but
No, that's great. I mean, I think there's sort of proactive and reactive ways to keep
yeah,
alignment. And I think we could go into details. We're not going to do it right now, but ways to build your bots, your GPTs in ways that align
hmm
to your corporate values and to your personal constraints, so that the outputs you're getting are within that field of play. And then there are also, again, these attitudinal postures that you have to take towards AI that we've
yeah,
sort of been reiterating, that it's a collaborative intern. It's not driving the bus. You're always
yes.
driving the bus. Um,
I'm Miss
but
Frazzle. They're the magic school bus kids. Yeah.
that's right. um, this is a good point. You know, Dylan and I host this podcast, AI for Good, but we also have just started an organization called Parallax Partners to help startups and nonprofits to get in this and get started and start seeing some success pretty quickly. As you know,
Yeah.
there's sort of an AI arms race going on right now. And every day that you're not sort of in it,
hmm
you're falling back a little bit. And so we want to create very highly approachable transparent entryways for you to begin to use AI to solve your everyday problems.
Yep.
And so in the show notes, we're going to give a link to our website, parallaxpartners.co, as well as our new podcast, which is where you found us here, but it also will live on Substack, where there's a Substack newsletter as well, where we'll interact with our audience to answer questions and to produce other future content as well.